Hi everyone, today we'll be presenting our intercultural communication analysis of the film The Help. It's released in 2011 and directed by Tate Taylors. The film is set in Jackson, Mississippi in the early 1960s, a period where racial segregation and discrimination were deeply embedded in the everyday life of southern United States. African American women mainly worked as domestic maids for those white families. Although they played an essential role in maintaining white households, they were denied basic respect, equality, and social participation. Our main argument is that The Help shows how power imbalance and racial hierarchy shapes intercultural communication. Communication between white employers and black maids is not equal. It is dominated by orders, silence, and fear rather than open dialogue. The story focuses on three main characters: Skeeter, a young white woman who wants to become a writer; Abilene, a quiet and observant maid who has experienced personal loss; and Minnie, who is outspoken but often punished for it. Through their interaction, the film reveals how race and social norms control daily communication. One key example is Healy Holbrook's Home Help Sanitation Initiative, which forces black maids to use separate bathrooms. This rule reflects racial stereotypes that label black bodies as dirty and reinforce the power distance in daily interactions. Skeeter later decides to write a book documenting the real-life experience of the black maids. At first, the maids are afraid to talk because they feel like the risks are extremely high. However, through trust, listening, and respect, Abilene and Minnie began to share their stories. This private conversation became a space where suppressed emotions can finally be expressed. Overall, The Help is not just about racism, but also a film that shows how communication functions under inequality, how silence can be a survival strategy, and how speaking out can become a form of resistance.
For our first argument, we apply critical discourse analysis, which examine how language and narrative maintain power and equality. In The Help, even the story focused on black men, the control of the narrative remains with Skeeter, the white protagonist, from a critical perspective. This suggests that black voices only gain legitimacy when they are filtered and presented through a white intermediary. A key example is Allie Bean's repeated line: "You are kind, you are smart, you are important, while emotionally powerful." This portrayal reinforces the stereotypes of black women, whose main role is nurturing white children rather than showing them as complex individuals with anger, resistance, and autonomy. Additionally, the book within the film is titled The Help, defining the women by their occupation rather than their identities. This forming started commodifies black serving and shifts attention away from systemic resonance towards individual democracy, especially Skeeter's. Therefore, also the film has positive intentions. Critical discourse analysis shows that it still reproduces an unequal power structure by allowing domination voice to shape how marginalized experiences are told and understood.
The second argument used the hostage power distance theory, which refers to how much inequality in power is accepted within a society. The Southern society shown in The Help is a clear example of high power distance culture. This is reflected through everyday rules such as black maids entering house through the back door, eating separately and using different bathrooms. This practice reinforces racial hierarchy without needing to be verbally stated. Because of the power distance, communication is highly restricted. Black minds are expected to be obedient and silent, while white employers give instruction without consideration. Dialoguing. For example, a billion consistently lowers her gaze and speaks cautiously, not because she lacked intelligence, but because expressing herself honestly could cost her job or safety. Even seemingly friendly relationships, such as Minnie's relationship with Celia Footy, do not truly remove power distance. The inequity still exists beneath the surface. Overall, Hofstede's theory helps explain why generally intercultural communication fails in a film. The social structure itself prevents equal exchange.
Our next argument focuses on nonverbal communication, silence, and cultural identity. In The Help, silence is not weakness, it is a survival strategy. Black males rely heavily on nonverbal cues, such as lowered eyes, controlled body language, and indirect speech to protect themselves in a dangerous social environment. Using face negotiation theory and high context communication, we can see that meaning is often expressed subtly rather than directly. When Abilene remains silent during Hallie's bathroom policy discussion, her silence signals resistance within the Black community. But white characters misinterpret as agreement. At the same time, cultural identity becomes a set of resistance. Abilene transforms from a silent walker into a storyteller by contributing to the book, reclaiming her identity as someone whose experiences matter. Minnie's chocolate pie incident represents open defiance against unjust authority, challenging the expectation that Black resistance must always be polite or quiet. These moments show how communication helps minority groups to reshape their identity.
The final argument applies communication or accommodation theory and anxiety uncertainty management theory. In the film, Black males constantly adjust their communication styles, speaking plainly, suppressing emotions, and avoiding confrontation. This is an example of one-sided communication. White characters rarely adapt, showing how communication responsibility is unevenly distributed. AUM theory explains that high anxiety and fear prevent effective communication. Because the consequences of miscommunication are severe, the males focus on survival rather than mutual understanding. From a critical review perspective, they help successfully illustrate emotional struggles but tends to simplify systemic racism by focus on individual change and white moral growth. The use of humor and sentimentality makes the film accessible, but it softens the harsh realities of institutional discrimination. In conclusion, The Help demonstrates that intercultural communication cannot be separated from power, fear, and social structure. True understanding requires more than empathy. It demands awareness of inequality and meaningful structure change. From this film, we are reminded that intercultural communication is not only just about language, but also about history, power, and emotion. It encourages us to listen more carefully, question stereotypes, and stand out when injustice happens.